What's going on, everybody? My name is Michael Weer, and today we are talking about Pearl. Pearl is a horror movie prequel to a horror movie X that came out earlier this year. When I saw X, guys, my mind was blown. I thought it was a fantastic horror movie and just a fantastic movie overall. I had a lot of fun with it. And when I stayed for the credits, as they rolled, they gave us a trailer for this movie, Pearl. Like, it is, I think, unheard of. Maybe it's happened, but pretty much unheard of for a low-budget horror movie to not only be given one movie, but to be given a sequel immediately. Like, they had this trailer done. They had already worked on this movie. And it blew my mind. I was like, I can't believe we're getting not only one, but two horror movies from Ti West this year about the same universe. Like, it was mind-blowing. But I was ready for it. So I've been hyped about Pearl since X came out. Now, you guys can check out my movie review for X, but I'll just give you a little bit of background on X before we jump into the review for Pearl. X is a movie about a bunch of adult filmmakers who go to a cabin in the woods to make an adult film. Now, this cabin is on the property of an old man and an old woman. Now, the old woman on the property, Pearl, she is not happy with how young and pretty the girls are on this property, so she starts this slasher event movie where she starts killing everybody, and it's awesome. One other thing to get into before we jump into the review for this movie is Mia Goth. Mia Goth plays Maxine in the movie X. She's the young final girl of the movie, but she also plays Pearl, the old decrepit looking woman in the movie. Now, I will say this, they have not really put those connective tissues together yet. I'm hoping they do with the third movie that's been announced. We'll get to that later, but Mia Goth does play both characters. And it's fun in X, but when you jump into Pearl, you get to see Mia Goth again, but this time as Pearl as a younger woman. If you're confused, I was confused for a little bit too, so don't feel bad. But with all that said, all that down, all that out of the way, let's jump into my review for Pearl.
The truth is, I'm not really a good person.
Alright guys, now I told you that Pearl was a prequel to X. It's a 6 decades earlier prequel to X. It actually takes place in 1918. So you got World War I going on. Pearl is actually married to her husband Howard, who you saw in the movie X, but Howard is overseas fighting the war. So she is stuck on a farm with her mother and her very decrepit father. When I say decrepit, I mean this man can't get out of a wheelchair, he can't bathe himself, he can't eat for himself, he can't give himself medicine, he's just stuck in a wheelchair, unable to talk, he just exists. And while that's going on, her mother is always putting her down, is always talking down to her. She's not giving her a voice. Like, you feel for Pearl's character, and I love what Ti West did with this character because you feel for Pearl. Even though in X, you know she's this sadistic killer. And from watching the trailers for Pearl, you know she's going to be this sadistic killer. But like right off the bat, I felt bad for Pearl. I was like, yeah, your life kind of sucks. Like, you're stuck on this farm. Your husband went off to a war that you don't know anything about. You're just a woman who can't get ahead. And you feel bad for her. And then she kills a goose and you're like, all right. See, I knew you were sadistic. I won't try to spoil things, but I am trying to set up the plot for you guys. The only other things to note in this movie, she has a best friend who's this blonde girl. And right off the bat, I said to my wife, I was like, in X, she told Howard, you know I don't like blonde girls. And I'm like, I wonder if there's some connective tissue here. And oh my gosh, there's connective tissue right there. Oh, there is. And the other person to note in this movie is a film projectionist at a movie theater who shows Pearl her first pornographic movie. He sees her in there a lot. They're about the same age. He's handsome. She's pretty. You could tell, like, he's got a little bit more on his mind, but she comes over to see a movie. He told her anytime you want to come by, you can see something. And he shows her pornography that he brought back from overseas because it's not legal in the US yet. And so he shows it to her, and that's almost the only sex scenes you get in this movie. Like in X, there was a lot. In this movie, there's a lot less. There's that, and then there's a thing with a scarecrow. But I kind of like the thing with the scarecrow. But moving on. That's your setup for this movie. You've got Pearl on this farm. Her mother's always talking down to her. She's kind of messed up in the head. Her husband's gone. Her father's decrepit. Her best friend, some stuff happens there, and you got this film projectionist. All of this is going on in Pearl's head, and she just finally has enough. But that's basically everything I can say before I get into spoiler territory. I mean, you know Pearl is going to be the sadistic person because she is in X, so I don't feel like I've spoiled anything, but if I go any further than that, I will start spoiling things. So let me get into things I like, things I dislike, and we'll move on. So getting into my likes, guys, I want to talk about a few things. First thing is I love the character building in this movie. Like I said before, everybody is set up in a way where you care about them. You care about the dad because you feel bad for his situation. You care about the mom because you feel bad for her situation. You care about Pearl because you feel bad for her situation. But at the same time, when bad things happen to these people, you're like, kind of a little bit deserve some of it. And the only one that didn't deserve anything is that goose. Everybody else kind of sort of deserved it. I do love what Ty West was able to do with those characters, though. It made me feel for them, but it also did not make me hate Pearl when she was finally doing the things that I knew she was going to do in this movie. Like, for some reason, when the movie ended, I was like, still kind of on Pearl's side. Like, I just was. And I think for a director to be able to direct a movie and to capture the audience like that is pretty cool. The next thing I like about this movie, of course, it's the kills. The kills are brutal, the kills are awesome, and it was more that gritty feel that we got from X that I really liked. The next thing I like about this movie is the tone. I liked how Ty West was able to capture in the movie X the feel of the 70s, right? From the way people talk to the way the film was shot. But then in this movie, the way it's shot, the way it's filmed, look, when I was a kid, I watched a lot of old movies, Mom, Pa, Kettle, Abbott and Costello, all that stuff, I watched that. Just the writing of the actors' names as the movie started, like, it felt like an old movie shot today. That's what it felt like. The way it would close in on scenes with little circles or open on scenes in circles, it was such a unique presentation. It just looked like a film that was supposed to come out back in 1918, and I love that this director was able to do that. On top of that, at the end of this movie, we get a clip for Maxine, the next movie coming out in this trilogy of horror that I'm just infatuated with. We got a trailer for Maxine, and it felt like the 80s. I can't explain it, but it feels like a movie out of the 80s. Ty West has done a fantastic job capturing the 70s, capturing the 1918, and capturing 1980s in just that little clip. If he could pull off Maxine, this will be one of my favorite trilogies of all time. Two more things I like about this movie. The first one is Mia Goth's performance as Pearl. I think she is believable, and that monologue scene, it goes on maybe a hair too long, but it is great. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, but you feel for that character, you understand that character, but most importantly, because it's a horror movie, you're terrified of that character. I just loved that scene. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is the Scarecrow scene. I liked it. Now, this is normally where I get into my dislikes of the movie, but I'll be completely honest with you guys. I don't have any to talk about. I've thought about this movie for the last 24 hours. Like, what did I not like? The pace was great. The acting was great. The buildup was great. The execution on the killings was great. I liked how you really saw Pearl go from someone you cared about to this sadistic, terrifying person that you understood. So I have no dislikes to talk about this movie. It will probably be in my top 10 at the end of this year. It's going to be hard to see a horror movie or just a movie in general push this thing out of the top 10. I really enjoyed Pearl. And guys, those are my thoughts on Pearl. If you enjoyed this review, hit the like button for me. If you want to share this review with your friends, make sure that by hitting the share button, it helps the channel out. Your friends get to see it. Maybe you guys get to talk about it. Or hey, you got a friend you're trying to convince to go see it and you think this review will do it. Well, send this review to them because it makes me happy on the inside. But I thought Pearl was a really fun time, and I thought it's a movie that everyone should enjoy in the theaters, especially if you're a horror fan. If you have already seen Pearl, I'd love to know your thoughts and your comments in the comment section down below. And finally, guys, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, make sure you do that because I have a lot of content on this, whether it's horror, comedy, or just anything in between. I am a huge fan of movies. I talk about movies nonstop. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Is that a raincoat?
Yes, it is. In '87, Huey released this. 4, their most accomplished album. I think their undisputed masterpiece is Hip to Be Square.